DeSantis.
Thank you so much. Please be seated. Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's great to be back. We've been able to do this for a number of years. Of course, I grew up a stone's throw away over in Dunedin, and I think that what you guys have done here at Curlew Hills has been very meaningful, and you get great community involvement, and I'm really heartened to see that's continued after all these years. Last year, I was not at this one. Last year, I went to the memorial in southern Manhattan at Ground Zero. And we had done that after having become friends with a lot of 9/11 families. We heard a lot of stories about not only that day, but different types of challenges that have happened since then. And my wife and I were able to go to the different sites with the family members, and they would tell you about the loved ones that they lost that day. And it was always something that was very impactful for me, starting on the day way back in 2001, but to be able to meet so many people whose lives were turned upside down that day has been very touching. And I think it strengthens the resolve to ensure that we're doing everything we can to never forget, to honor the people that not only lost their lives that day, but has been mentioned in the years since. That day and that attack represented the worst that humanity has to offer. But the response to that attack, whether it was the office workers in the World Trade Center who were scurrying their coworkers out of the building to safety, whether it was members of the FDNY, the Port Authority, or the NYPD who ran into the burning towers, knowing the risk that entailed to save others' lives, and in the process, many of them gave their own lives. Whether it's the passengers on United Flight 93 who knew what was happening, who knew that if they were to stop it, that would mean that they were not going to survive that flight, but yet realized that if they let the flight continue, you could have hundreds, maybe thousands more people killed, and they were not going to let that happen on their watch. What they did that day across the board represented the best of what humanity and America has to offer. And we'll never forget the sacrifices that those folks made, many of them just regular people doing a regular honest day's work or happened to be on a plane, and yet they stood up and they were heroes. And for that, we'll forever be grateful. It's also worth remembering 9/11 changed this country in ways that few events have. I can tell you in my own personal experience, I would not have ended up likely joining the United States military had it not been for 9/11, and I would have very unlikely been on a deployment to Iraq had it not been for 9/11. So even though I didn't know anybody who had died in the World Trade Center at the Pentagon or in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, it was something that inspired me to say, you know, America is going to fight back. And we had so many people of my generation who joined the military. And yes, you have the Afghanistan conflict, which we all know that went on for a long time, and the ending of that was not reflective of the honor that those folks who risked their lives deserved. We also had a lengthy conflict in Iraq. We never had a draft after that. It was people that raised their hand. And that meant those folks not only deployed once, like me, they deployed 3 times, 4 times, 5 times over a 5-10-year period. They missed Christmas, they missed Easter, they missed birthdays, they missed all the holidays with their families. They shouldered an immense burden for this country. And so on behalf of the post-9/11 generation of veterans, I just want to say as governor, thank you for your service. We appreciate what you did. It was a difficult time for this country. Not every political decision that was made was the appropriate one, but any duty you were asked to do, you did it, and you discharged it with honor and with integrity. And finally, I just say, we say never forget. And part of the reason why you have events like we have here today, why they're at the World Trade Center site in Manhattan, why they're at the Pentagon, and why they're in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, is to ensure that people remember what happened that day, honoring those who were killed, celebrating those who rose to the occasion. And I think that that's totally appropriate. But it also occurs to me that most of the people in our country who are under the age of 30 were either not born yet or probably too young to have a very firm memory of what 9/11 entailed. And so by saying never forget, doing things every year on 9/11 is necessary, but it's not sufficient. And so I'm proud to have worked with the Florida legislature to develop for our schools 9/11 curriculum so that every year we will have instruction on the causes of 9/11, the destruction of 9/11, the heroic response that so many made to 9/11. And this wasn't just something that was devised in some ivory tower. This was something that was devised in conjunction with 9/11 families, with people who were veterans of the World Trade Center and veterans of the Pentagon. And I think this is something that's very, very meaningful. So as the father of young kids, 7, 6, and 4, my kids may be a little too young to fully understand at this point, but I'm confident that growing up in the state of Florida, they are going to be taught what this event means to our country. It's a wake-up call to know that evil is out there, but it also serves, or it should serve, as inspiration to know that the way those folks responded when everything was on the line, they rose to the occasion. They sacrificed themselves, and they saved many, many lives in the process. So we worked hard on that curriculum, and today is going to be across Florida the debut of that curriculum, and it's something that's really, really important. And I know everybody here is appreciative that that's being done in the state of Florida. Most states are not doing anything of this nature. We're not going to forget. And not only that, if you outside of the tri-state area, we are the #1 place where 9/11 veterans have moved to in the years since 9/11. You go look in this area, you have people that retired from the Port Authority and the FDNY and the NYPD. So Florida, we have a special obligation as being the desired home of so many people who were there that day to make sure we're doing right by their sacrifice and to make sure that future generations truly never forget. Thank you. God bless you. God bless the memory of those lost. God bless the people who sacrificed, and God bless these United States of America.